right, so thank you everyone, and if we can dim the lights a bit, just for the first few slides. And thanks Sudhir for having me here. It's my first time here actually, and congratulations on your 10th anniversary for Sudhir and team, in fact. Amazing team you guys have. Nice camaraderie, I can see that. So I'm just going to start by introducing a little bit about myself. Like, I actually was 5 years old when I heard this term called typography. And I was like, I didn't know what it was, but my mother was in advertising. She was a creative director at Ogilvy, and there's this person called Borgi who used to keep coming to Delhi, and I was like, who's this person? But she was apparently the chief typographer of DO, David Ogilvy, and she would check everything from typos and typesetting mistakes for all the worldwide offices of those days it was called OBM, Ogilvy, Benson, and Mather. But anyway, despite this whole thing of having a background with your mother in the field, I decided to study computer science when I went to the US as a kid. And well, one thing that changed my life, ironically, and got me into visual arts was blindness. I actually became blind. I had a condition I'm going to talk about. So I actually had this crazy thing happen to me, and I was misdiagnosed for a long time. It was like unbelievable headaches, and it's just hard to explain it verbally. So I mean, I started doing things visually very naturally. I didn't know how to express myself to doctors and all. And thank God for Asian doctors. There was a Japanese doctor, his name is Dr. Ono, but it's not spelled O-H-N-O, it's O-N-O. He figured out what's wrong with my head. And basically I had to do these tests where flashing lights was put in front of my eyes. Most of them I could not see. And they discovered there was a cyst in my brain, basically, in the pituitary gland, pushing the optic nerves, and hence blindness. I had to have brain surgery, and amazing Chinese doctor called Dr. Young, who was actually quite young as well. And that kind of changed my life in a way, and I actually started using my MRI scans in my design work. This is still when I was a student, so I switched tracks at some point. I was doing computer science, but I got more interested in the visual arts, suddenly. And this was a class by Stefan Sagmeister. Some of you may know who he is. So he was my teacher at SVA. And he told us to design a music CD. He's known for his music CDs, Rolling Stone and all that. So basically, he said, don't do it logically, do it by emotion. And I chose this soundtrack by Peter Gabriel, Passion, because the sounds are uncannily like the sounds that you have in MRI machines. Because I was in these MRI machines for weeks and months. I mean, they keep tapering it down after your surgery, but the clanking and the claustrophobia was uncanny, and so I decided to use my own scans. But before Stefan Sagmeister, I had another mentor, because I also broke my ankle like before this, into 3 pieces, and I said, okay, I want to do something visually. I want to actually, almost like a catharsis. And this time I didn't even know the term graphic designer, believe it or not. I knew typography, but I didn't obviously know how to use it. You can see there are like 10 fonts in there. So I mean, this is like, I was 21 at that time, and so my teacher said, just do it visually. Like, get your x-rays and do it. So what I did was I actually used a triptych, because it was a triple fracture, and trimalleolar fracture. So I know some of these medical terms now because of all these things. And I also did 2 series. One is a more like before the surgery. You can see the break in there. And then once I had surgery with the screws and the plates, which are still in my leg, I started using other words, right, which are more mature. And then you go through pain, you go through certain, maturity comes into your life when you go through all of this stuff. So anyway, this is just giving you a background. I don't want this to be such a dreary talk, so I'm kind of fast forwarding to, when I came to India back from the US, I was in the US for about 15 years. And when I came to India, I felt that graphic design in India is not, I don't see the Indianness in that, to me personally. Coming from America, I expected design to look very different than it was looking in the States. So anyway, I started something called the Typecraft Initiative about 15 years ago. And the whole idea of the Typecraft Initiative is really to get urban designers to go to villages, to go to work with our craftspeople, to work with folk artists, with Adivasis, to work with people who are part of our culture, but who we don't really engage with. It also was a frustration that I had because of design being rooted in corporate work, and also we tend to be very straitjacketed in our, because of our education. Even my education is very modernist, Bauhausian, which is there in India as well. And I felt, but on the streets, India is not modernist, it's not Bauhaus, it is expressive. Everything from tattoos to bridal trousseaus, trucks. We are not a less is more country. So let's face that. So what can I do with that? There's this clash of ideologies, you can say, right? A largely Western definition of design, which is about precision, it's about uniformity, consistency, legibility, versus the traditional quote-unquote definition, which is really about the handmade, it's about irregularity, it's about inconsistency. And so how can we bring that into our highly digitized world? And so I read up a lot about it, and one of the things that happened, of course, which some of you may know, is that there was a criminalization of ornament in Europe because it was a reaction to the bourgeoisie. So basically, ornament was seen as richness and wealth and in the hands of a few of the aristocracy. And so it was kind of wiping away that whole thing in the 20th century when modernism came in, the machine age came in, it was all about minimalism. But in India, we don't have that. We have a different approach, and I would say in Asia in general. Right? So ornament in India or in Asia, it's about power, it's about culture. It's much deeper than just something visually ornament. So maximalism is our mantra, I would say. It's not about minimalism. That's my own personal opinion. And so the posters that I designed, so this was actually a typeface on the Rabadi people who I will talk about in a second, from Kutch, Gujarat. And so the posters I design are not just about the word and expressing culture visually through text, but here I've also written a whole, I'm not going to read it, but I'm just telling you the context, that Rabadi embroidery is rooted in, it depicts not only the identity of the community, but it is rooted in the rites of passage of women. So a girl will have a very different embroidery pattern and design than, say, when she's adolescent, versus when she's married, or versus when she has a child as well. And even widows have another kind of uniform, you can call it. So there's a code. This is not just random decoration. There's a meaning inside it, right? So I wanted to highlight that. So these are basically pastoral nomadic people from Gujarat, and there are 3 types of Rabadis, but I won't get into that because of time shortage. But we worked with the Dhebariya Rabadi community. And what we've done is we've created a typeface, so it's a display typeface, obviously. Display typeface meaning something that is used mainly for larger sizes because they're highly intricate. And we are using 3 different styles in this typeface, like styles, like you can think of it as weight, but instead of calling it light, regular, we wanted to use Gujarati words, local words, Kutchi words. And we also have embedded icons into it, because icons are so important, right? So there is camel, there is a woman carrying water, there is a parrot, Suddo, the one on the right. So these are all part of the typeface. So it becomes an archive. You're not just using a font for something, but you can also learn about that community and their icons through the font. And I'll try, if there's time, I'll do a demo on the computer. One thing I didn't mention is that these icons can be generated by just merely typing the word. So if you type camel or you type in their language, like Suddo for parrot, you will get those icons using something called discretionary ligatures. I will see if there's time to do a demo. So the thing, what we're trying to do is creating something niche and trying to celebrate the community and their culture through type, right? But this is one avenue. I'm sure you can do it through game, through animation people have done. Type is one language that we are trying to build for this. So one of the projects that we worked on last year was the Bega tattoos, the Adivasi, which are actually done by the Badi people. The Badi are the tribal women who know the tattoo iconography. And when we go to these workshops, we don't just say, okay, ek akshar banao, A banao, B banao, not like that. We go there with some humility, and this is something, by the way, I've learned over time because I've been doing it for 15 years. As a designer, I was also quite arrogant, you can say, in the beginning, but then I learned that no, there's so much to learn. So we always start by learning from them. We are the student, we are not going there to teach them something. So I'm very aware of the power dynamics of being a man going from an urban city to a rural village, working with women. And so we also have women in the team who are present, interns mainly, who come with me. And so we always learn from them. Tell us about so what you see on the right is all our sketch notes of the tattoos and the icons, and it's a very complex system. It's a brand identity of a community, right? And so then after that, we try to work without constraints. We're like, okay, you make something, you make a letter, but don't worry too much about it, just do what you want to do. So what I've circled is just to tell you we work with prompts. So like if you see the E on the right, I won't explain all of them, but here this is Jamni Bai. She's made all the horizontal bars the same. So we just said, okay, can you try another E with different horizontal bars? So we never draw anything ourselves, we never show anything ourselves. We give prompts and then provocations, right? Can you try this or can you try that? And that gives ownership back to them rather than us driving it. So that's Jamni Bai. This is on a few days later. Then we bring constraints because with type you have to have legibility. It's not just decorative. It needs to work functionally. It needs to be readable, understandable, comprehensible, right? So that is the challenge of design which comes in. And so by the end, we get some amazing letters, which I think they're like amazing in this whole process, about 7 to 10 days. So this is kind of showing you how we've gone from tattoos to drawings to glyphs, which is an app we use, and then finally a functional typeface. And we've also worked on another tattoo typeface called Godna, which is on the Gond tribe. And that was done in 2012, probably one of the earliest typefaces made with a Adivasi or a folk art group, I don't know. But we are not just about font design, we are much more than that. We want to emphasize this as well. So we are also about understanding identity and people, and type is kind of the bridge between these two things, right? So how do we bring a greater understanding of people? And I'm just going to show a short video and then I'll move forward. I don't know how much time I have.
बैगा समाज की जो महिलाएं होती हैं, बच्चे होती हैं, तो प्रथम गुदना चूल्हा गुदवाते हैं क्योंकि उनके जाति का पहचान है वो। जब तक माथे में चूल्हा नहीं होती है, उनके जाति की नहीं मानी जाती थी।
So because of time, I'll just move forward. So I also wrote this article in this magazine on this community, and here I've actually talked about that actually the original graphic designers, this is a claim I'm making, are the ancestors of these women. Why? Because these women like Mangla Bai, who was just speaking, or Jamni Bai, who are from the Badi community, as I mentioned, they know the tattoos of all the Kshetriya Godna, all the local communities, the Bhil, the Bega, the Gond, and so on, so forth, Korku. And they know the iconography by heart. They know what each tattoo means, when it's supposed to be applied. I won't get into that, but again, these are like rites of passage. Certain tattoos are applied at certain age of the woman. And they all mean certain things. It's not just random decoration. So in a typical brand identity, what you need to do is, right, you need to belong to a group, but you need to stand out. Like if you look at car branding also, most cars have a similar sense of the identity that they use, right? There's a certain, like a Volkswagen and a Mercedes, you know, they'll have a certain shape and a feel. So they belong to the genre of the car company, but they stand out, right? You have to stand out, but you can't be too far away and start looking like a toothpaste or something, right? You have to belong to that group. So in the same way, the branding of these women, of these various communities is about belonging to a group of tribal people, but still you know who's Bega just by looking at the matha, by the forehead, because of that chula. And I'll just show you, oh, there's another video, I'll quickly show you that. How are we doing? 6 minutes, very little time. these are all we kind of mapped out all the tattoos and the name, where it is in the letter as well, after the font was designed. So this also gives you a sense of the connections. So I won't show all of them. So each tattoo refers to something. It can be an object like kumni is a fish trap, or it could be a morela in their language, in Kondi. So everything relates to something, and it's not just a random thing. So we've also now designed posters where we try to explain each of these, motifs using the font and using these icons. And another thing that's at the heart of Typecraft is diversity, right? So diversity is something that's always, not just today, but always been under attack throughout history. And so diversity for us is working with different people, with different backgrounds, coming from different geographical locations, working in different materials, right? And basically having different belief systems and working with different crafts as well. So we work, not only just with tattoos, embroidery, with patchwork, kolam, so floor art, so various communities we are working with. And I won't be able to talk about all of them, but I'll just run through some of them. So yeah, we don't call our typefaces sans serif or serif, we say it is sans racism, right? So that's really the motto. Like if you work with these communities, how can you not support these communities? How can you not stand up for their belief systems? And so this is something, Typecraft has become a little political over time. It wasn't started like that, but just because we are working with people who are from Dalit backgrounds, from minority religions, with refugees, with women, Adivasis, obviously you need to, those type needs to speak, right? No pun intended, but so there are various posters we also designed. The one on the right is looking at Trump's immigration battle or aggression against immigrants. And this one on the left is about mining, etc., jungles and deforestation. Gaza is another topic that we look at. We look at the silence of the allies, the so-called allies. And then some of the posters are more informational as well. They could just be about the tattoo and the culture and the belief systems. I also recently worked with the refugees from Gaza. This was about a year ago, and in Doha. It was one of the toughest experiences I ever had. It's not easy even to talk about it. I get emotional because they are all going through like hell. And to go and do a workshop with these women and their children was very difficult, but we did, it was about an 8-9 day workshop, every day going there, and every day there would be some attack or someone in their family or friends would be dying, and it's like, how do you even, what is the point of Typecraft or type in this scenario? It's in a very extreme case, of course. But it made me think a lot about type, and eventually there was this typeface which has been released and just shown in London recently. And then I think I will end with, because not much time, but let's see if Sudhir gives me a few more minutes extra. But so another thing that's very central to us is the workshop, right? And the workshop is a way to bring ownership and authorship of the work we are doing, the typefaces we're creating with the women, right, with the community. So that we are not in isolation. We're not just sitting in our office and looking at Bega and drawing it and making it. No, we have to go there, we have to work with them in a collaborative manner, right? So it keeps the project also relevant and keeps it, there's a stakeholdership involved in this. And when I say mimicking the craft, so certain crafts like tattoo art, crafts that are drawn are very easy to replicate. But when you're doing, when I say replicate, you can try out, so in design, right, we always want to have many options before we finalize a design. So when you're drawing something like a tattoo, it's very easy to make multiple E's and multiple letters. But if you're doing embroidery or you're doing a very process-based craft, it takes time to make these embroideries. So before we get to embroidery or to bandhani and tie-dye or ajrak block printing, we have other methods to kind of try out these things. So we have to mimic the craft, right? So, and in the case of embroidery, we also notice that a lot of the women don't know how to draw. They can embroider directly, but they don't know how to draw. So how do we get them to explore and try new things? And so that was one of the challenges. And the other thing I'll say that I don't like this word illiterate, because actually people may call them illiterate, but actually we are illiterate in their language as well. I don't know anything about embroidery or patchwork. I don't know their culture and their codification. Just because they don't know English, that doesn't mean they're illiterate. So that's another thing we try to overcome, and we almost treat it like a design workshop, so we ask them only to critique each other, so give them that ownership. We don't always depend on us to critique you. Why don't you tell us what did Ketu Devi make, or what did so-and-so make? What do you think about that? And so these women, for instance, these are from Barmer, they have never been actually allowed to design. Why? Because the design comes to them from an urban designer or a company. Like big companies give them the design, and like IKEA is one of their clients, and they just give them the design, and okay, they just have to cut it and stitch it. But here we are saying, no, you have to start from scratch. We start with paper. Paper is cheap, it's easy to manipulate. You can try many examples, many iterations, which is what you need in design. Once you get it to a certain stage, then we can come back to cloth, right? So that's kind of the methodology we use. And that's what I mean by mimicking the craft. So we have to always find, each craft is different. So we have to always find a methodology to mimic these crafts, in whichever way. I think I'm out of time, so I'll try to just hurry up my presentation. So that is Barmer. And then with Bandhani, for instance, we had to, the tie and dye dots, we had to mimic through other means. And again, these are women who are not usually included in the design process. They are only doing the tying. All the dyeing work and the designs are done by the men. So how do you get them involved as authors, as creators, right? So that's one of the challenges. And then again, we talked about Urdu, right? So there's all this Urdu bashing happening nowadays. So since we had, we have to admit that it is our language and a script that is ours as well. Then with Suf embroidery, it's very tessellation-based. Suf is from Sindh and Gujarat mainly, and parts of Rajasthan, like Kutch and Rajasthan. And so here the methodology was different. We gave them triangles, diamonds, like basically these symbols to work with, which they really enjoyed because they said they never get to do this. They only, again, get the final artwork and you embroider wherever the lines are there. There's no creation. We actually made a Suf Rangila, which is a multicolored typeface. So you can actually enjoy the embroidery digitally as well. Since I'm out of time, I'm just going to skip ahead. We are also working on Ramayan right now. And the other thing I will talk about, because there's no time, is that we also work with, we take this to schools and also design colleges, right? So what is great is that, so these, like you can see, Suf is being replicated by some of the designers. This is at California College of Art in the US. So we take some of the samples of the textiles, and then they get to work. They can choose, they want to do Suf or they want to do Barmer, and then they have to make letters from that. So this is like world over. This is University of Edinburgh, this is in Portugal, this is in Poland, et cetera, et cetera. We've also been shown, our work has been shown at Muji in Tokyo, which is really great. Good to get another exposure. And I'm also proud to share that our work was recently acquired by the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art. So that's basically it. I just want to thank all the craftspeople, craftswomen mainly, who we work with, and thank you for your time.